to have you here. Oh, what a good crew. I love my peeps. Okay, as I've said before, these Thursday Facebook Live workshops are just as much for me as for you. I miss you guys. I miss having people here in person. It really feels nice to be able to gather in this circle here. And so today, folks, finding focus and motivation in pandemic times. This workshop, I really want to use this time to help you get more deliberate about how you want to spend this next undetermined amount of time. A lot of you are in lockdown, and some of you aren't. Some of you are still, out there having to do essential services. Some of you are in lockdown, but you're still in full-on mode, kind of like I am. But it's still important to decide this really unprecedented time that we're experiencing. How do you want to live it? How do you want to show up in it? And is there anything particular you want to use this time for? So we're going to define goal. We're going to, first of all, have you connect with the feelings that you would like to be cultivating right now, that you'd like to be feeling as opposed to what you might be feeling. Then we're going to look at what are some of the goals that you could put into place. And I don't want you to bite off tons of stuff right now. I'll talk about that later. But some goals that will help you to cultivate this feeling that you've identified that you really yearn for. Okay? At the end of the day, it's about the feeling. And then we build the goals on top of that. And then, this is an important piece, I think, for a lot of us. We're going to explore ways to stay focused enough to be able to chip away at these goals in the middle of this very wild, strange time. There's so many things vying for our attention outside of us and inside of us. A lot of our systems are in high alert. I'm talking to a lot of people who are saying, wow, I'm not sleeping well, I'm waking up a lot. Even those people, my colleague Camille Labchuk that I work with at Animal Justice, she is just a powerhouse, focused, high productive all the time. And even she was saying last week, I'm so distracted. I don't even know what to do with myself. I know that she's already fixed that because she's pumping out stuff really well. So thank you, Camille. But I just wanted to recognize that. That made me feel better when I heard that. I'm like, oh, okay, even Goddess Camille has slowed down a little bit with this. So yeah, so I think, let's take a big fresh breath. And I just want you to add in the comments right now 1 or 2 words to describe where you're at right now, what you're feeling, what your state is right now. I'm going to start. I'm pretty pumped to be here, and I'm still a little scattered. So those would be my 2 words, pumped and scattered. How about you? Add into the comments where you're at. Oh, Janice, lovely to have you here. Monica, so good to see you. Yay, thanks for joining. So words to describe your state right now. And just a reminder that there's about a 30-second delay. So sometimes I'll be, not responding exactly when you post. Once again, in order to have this video sort of be seen by people who need it, like, share, whatever you can right now to get it out there. Okay, so let's see if we've got some people putting things in. Okay, Beth, frenzy and ruminating. Okay, yeah, that sounds about right at this point. Judy says non-productive. I'd like to see what a non-productive day looks like for you, Mom. Who else? Who else has got a word or 2 for me? Yeah, okay. So let me just, before I get into things, in case you don't know who I am, I want to introduce myself. I am Kimberly Carroll. I am a coach for Changemakers. So I help people who are trying to make a positive difference in the world with the inner work and the high performance habits and the strategies, the tactical strategies to really empower you and your work. So I know all of the folks that are here are, such amazing people, such heart-led people that are really trying your best to show up in a conscious way during this time. It might not have been working, but you're trying. So that's great. Okay, I'm going to just see how many more words we have going on here. Edelweiss, so nice to see you. You said you're overwhelmed and in avoidance mode. Okay. Janice says relieved and thoughtful. We're going to take some of that in, Janice. Emily said positive but overwhelmed. Oh, yeah, that is exactly where I'm at too, Emily. Oh, and Bill's here too. Bill can hardly hear me. Is anybody else having trouble with audio? I tested the audio and I didn't hear that there was anybody having any trouble. So if anybody else is having trouble with audio, or if anybody can confirm that the audio is okay, let me know, and then Bill will know that it's sort of on his end of things. June said, grateful to be safe and healthy and still optimistic. Yeah, a lot of appreciation going on over here for what we do have. There was our grandparents had, or great grandparents who were whatever age you're at. There was the Great War and the Great Depression. We've just got the Great Pause. All we need to kind of do is sit on our couch right now and stay out of people's way. So it's actually, for the worst of times, it's not as bad as it could be. So just acknowledging, and also acknowledging for some of you, it is a lot harder. You are on the front lines in ways, and you are being touched by people that are getting sick and everything. So I don't want to undervalue that, underappreciate that, but just to know that we're in a community that is really taking care of each other right now, and that's a beautiful thing to behold. Kathleen said, hey, Ms. K, I'm a bit headachy and anxious today. Okay, I'm glad you showed up here. Patricia said the visual is fuzzy. I'm looking at the other device I have, and it's not fuzzy on my end, so it might be your bandwidth, Patricia. And it's just this time of day with everybody online, it's just really tough. Judy said it's surreal. April just joined. Hello. Edelweiss said the volume is low. Okay, I'm just gonna bring my microphone a little bit closer to see if that helps. Okay. Kathleen said I had audio issues last time, but I'm using headphones today and audio is much better. Good. Ashley said audio and video great on my end, and Janice too. Okay, perfect. Thank you, folks. So yeah, it just takes a little bit of adjusting with these Facebook Lives. So, folks, we've been in this pandemic upside down world for a bit now, going on, at least in sort of North America, for about 3 weeks, this kind of lockdown. How many of you are still walking around feeling pretty dazed and distracted? Or how many of you are living like all bets are off? I shared this with my email list, I think yesterday, just this tweet from country singer Casey Musgraves, and she said, I feel like I'm stuck in that weird period between Christmas and New Year's where anything goes. So tell me if you fall into one of those categories, if you fall into the anything goes category right now, just like eating what I want, drinking what I want, getting up when I want, and no judgment here, or whether you're falling into the distracted days, maybe trying to do stuff, but all over the place. So add in the comments where you're at as far as that goes. I don't need you to necessarily move out of this place. If you are in a place of anything goes right now, if you're in a place of kind of just letting yourself be distracted, maybe you just need to be in that place for a little while. This is a pandemic, guys. This is, again, unprecedented times. You are allowed. But what I'm going to invite you to do is to keep on checking in to yourself and go, is this still feeling okay for me? Is this still feeling healthy for me? Is this still feeling like I'm in my integrity? And when I say healthy, I mean that sort of all around wellness, because sometimes things that are classically not healthy, like chocolate or a glass of wine or whatever, sometimes they feel good for you. They're just what you need at that moment, and sometimes they're toxic for you. So, and that may change from day to day. So one of the things I'm just going to advise is that you keep on checking into yourself and going, okay, is this going to rob me or is this going to feed me? That's a really good mantra I use. When I'm uncertain, when I'm a little bit scattered and I'm trying to decide, do I go this way or do I go that way? I ask, does this rob me or does this feed me? So just a little mantra to share. Just going into the comments, and April said a little bit of both, a little bit of the distracted and everything goes. Beth said distracted, dazed, and also hypervigilant. Oh my God, hypervigilant, right? Judy said all over the place. And June said establishing a daily routine that is focused on me. Oh, Very, very smart. And that's what we talked about last week. And we'll add to that this week as well. So if anybody's just joined, welcome. We are figuring out how to get a little bit more deliberate, motivated, and focused in these pandemic times. And what I want to talk about, well, you know what? What I would probably like to do is just, well, acknowledge that. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. I was saying that if you're not ready to move out of this place, that's okay. Earmark this workshop for later and just keep checking in. You might not be ready today. You might be ready tomorrow. And if this looks like it's going to go on for a long time, this sort of situation of lockdown, of isolation. And folks have already started saying to me in the last week, I want to get more deliberate about navigating this time. This actually could be a really precious time for me. And that's what we're going to work on today, is we're going to get really clear on how you want to show up in this time and what particular tangible goals you might want to set around it. So, you know that I always like to do this work of creating and planning and strategizing from a place of center. So again, this being a workshop, come on down the little meditation trail with me. So we'll just do a quick little check-in. I'm going to have you close your eyes. And we're going to make this really active because, again, I think there's just, as Beth said, there's this hypervigilance. Everybody's sort of got a bit of a distracted, frenetic energy, or a lot of people do. Or maybe you just have a lot of heaviness in you. So I want to make sure that we kind of clear a little bit of that before we start to create something else. So let's start off with just a nice, big, leisurely breath. And let's do some shoulder rolls backwards. Making these shoulder rolls really slow, but big range of motion. And this is just to basically let the body know, the brain know, that we are not in immediate danger, that it's okay to slow down for a minute and to open up, to relax, to receive. So nice and slow, working out some of those kinks that you might have collected over this week so far. And then let's do alternating shoulder rolls and getting nice and groovy. That's my word of the year, by the way, groovy. That's getting more challenging by the week. Okay, letting the shoulders relax back and down. And let's just move the lower jaw back and forth a bit, creating some big O's with the mouth. And then letting everything go slack. And now I know this may feel and look silly, but I want you to tune into the mind right now, the crown of the head, and noticing how frenetic it might be in there, how busy it might be, how foggy it might be in there, or heavy it might be. And what I'd like for you to do now is I'd like for you to just start shaking the head, shaking out any of those stale parts, just shaking out any of the frenetic energy, just shaking it out, getting the lips in, getting the face in, shaking it out. Good. And then just letting the dust settle there. And let's go down into the throat. And just once again noticing where the throat is in the scheme of things, whether it's tight or holding, whether it is feeling closed, constricted. And let's begin to shake that out of the neck. So big breath in and shaking out the neck, shaking out the neck, shaking it out, just getting out all of the sort of stuck, frenetic, holding energy out of the neck. Good. And then letting the neck rest. And just sort of feeling the tension trickle out. Let's go down into the heart. And just notice the state of the heart right now. Noticing if it is tight, hard, heavy, numb. Or there might be lots of good stuff going on in the heart too, but just noticing where the heart might be feeling a little bit more weighed upon or limited. Okay, let's take a big breath into the heart and let's shake it out. Shake out the heart. Shake out the heart as much as possible. Shake it out, 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 shake it out. Good. letting that settle. And one more stop. Let's go down into the upper stomach, the solar plexus, the place where we tend to hold a lot of anxiety. And I want you to notice the state of the upper stomach. And I want you to notice if there is anything happening in the upper stomach that you would like to release. Maybe there's a lot of tightness, maybe there's a lot of butterflies, maybe there's some aching. All right. And to get into this place, because there's so much in this place, let's just do the whole body, okay? 1, 2, 3. Shaking it out, shaking out the whole body with the emphasis on the upper stomach. Good. And then keeping your eyes closed, letting it settle. Bringing your hands to your heart. And these check-ins with yourself are going to be super important during this time, especially as you try to start creating more consciously. And I just want you to feel the warmth of your hands through your heart. Just feeling that sort of nurturing gesture. And with just a lot of tenderness and curiosity, asking yourself, how are you, sweetheart? Buddy? Darling, how are you? And then just listen, just make space to check in and see what you're feeling right here, right now. And naming it just really helps to free it up a little bit. So giving a name to each feeling as you come into contact with it, whether it feels awesome or really challenging. Now letting the hands relax and letting yourself go down a little bit deeper. So if this is the sort of ocean surface level, the waves, allowing yourself to drop down into deeper places in you. So deeper levels of consciousness. With each exhale, just relaxing the shoulders and going deeper. Softening the belly, going deeper. Exhaling deeper. And at this deeper place, more hidden place, checking in again. Sometimes an even more quiet, tender voice comes out when you ask, how are you, my dear? Just see what comes up for you. What is it that you need to pay attention to? And whatever it is, just breathe into it. Just be in it. Just roll around in it for a minute. All right, let's take in a nice big cleansing breath. And big audible exhale out. And again, if there's anything else left to shake, go for it. And coming back to eyes open. Okay. Oh, yeah, I feel a lot better now. So we had, I'm sorry for anybody that joined during that. That might have been a little bit strange to jump into, to see me like shaking it up. Need to wear a better bra next time when I do this. I'd love to hear in the comments, when you checked in on that first level and then the second level, what came up for you? Maybe even more so on that second level when I asked you, what is it you need to pay attention to right now? What came up? So, add it in the comments. I'd love to hear. And some other comments that I hadn't seen yet. Well, first of all, we had Carolina join us. Excellent. Hi, darling. Ashley said, I've been super productive making healthy choices, which is the opposite of my usual. I love it. In a time of crisis, she steps up. Monica said, daily exercise helps, allowing myself to be swallowed by social media. I'm going to assume does not help. Hi, Michael. Hi, Connie. Glad to have you here. Okay, so just in the comments, when you checked in on that deeper level, what came up? Meanwhile, I would like to start sort of defining what it is that I want to take a different approach to these goals that we're going to set. I know that there's a lot of things that might be rolling around about what you want to do with this time, but what I want to do first is get clear on what you want to feel. Okay, so the way goals get unmotivated is they don't come from feelings that are really like important to you. They don't come from values and qualities that are really integral to you. So that's why I want to start with just take a second to tune in to the feelings. Okay, so I'm going to ask everybody to just pen and paper. Hopefully, if you don't have pen and paper, you can just grab a pen and paper. I always forget to mention that at the beginning, but grab a pen and paper. You're going to need it. I want you to first of all think about what are the three feelings that you've been living in the last couple of weeks mostly. I mean, I'm sure there's been a plethora of feelings, but if you were to get sort of honest about what are the feelings that really are kind of dictating your day, write those down, okay? Write those down, and maybe even I would love for you to share them in the chat, okay? So putting in the chat what three feelings in the last couple of weeks you feel like you've been living. Like, has it been a lot of anxiety? Has it been a lot of, feeling of being scattered? Has it been numb? Or it could be amazing things. It could be like super excited. It could be really a connected, or it could be disconnected. So just getting clear on, before we can kind of go ahead, we have to look back and go, where am I? What am I doing? Where am I coming from? Because that is what we build on. So putting into the comments what you find. Meanwhile, I am going to read a couple of the comments that came up. On the deeper level of that check-in, Monica says, gnawing in my belly. Yeah. And Beth said, feeling trapped, literally needing to protect your family. So some really primal things going on there. Grief from having lost a friend last week, Monica. I'm so sorry for that. Yeah, I hope you're able to make space to be with that, to really be with that. Edelweiss says, I'm frustrated that I'm not super productive, but when I tap into that, it's because I feel despair. Yes. And we need to make room for that. We need to make room to process all of the shit that's happening right now for all of you in different ways. If you haven't watched my workshop from last week, that's all about a daily practice to be able to have a space where you can really pay attention to and work through and have some tools to be able to process this whole, I guess, unreal experience. Okay, so the three feelings that you've been living in so far, I haven't gotten anybody in the comments adding what those three feelings are. But as you do, let me start you on the next piece. I would now like for you to think about what are the three feelings that you would really like to be living in right now. What are the three feelings that are sort of calling to you to step into? You might not know how or if you can do it, but what do you kind of yearn for right now? So, for example, I'm feeling pretty super productive right now, and it's great, but I'm yearning for some space right now. I'm yearning for a little stillness. So this weekend, knowing that and having sort of connected with that, I've got, certain goals around unplugging this weekend and around quiet and, staying away from work and all that. So yeah, it's really important to identify what those three feelings are. So I'm looking for I'm looking for the three feelings that you feel like you'd like to cultivate right now. And I'm going to just read through some of the feelings that people said that they have been living in, that they are done with, they would like to move out of. So Beth said scattered, anxious, and grateful. Well, and it doesn't have to be ones that you move out of. So glad you have that gratitude in there to balance that, Beth. April said anxiety, grief, and worry. Yeah, no, how are you supposed to create anything with that as your foundation, right? It's really, really important to kind of find ways to cultivate a different energy. And April, it might be for you, it might be more about that right now, just concentrating on a daily practice that allows you to work through some of those feelings of fear and loss. in order to be able to make space before you can sort of charge forward and take on a new project. Okay, so if some of you feel just really like in this place of a lot of despair, a lot of fear, that would be my first recommendation. And like I said, I did a video for that that's on this page. You can take a look at that, or we'll also talk about it briefly a little bit later on in the workshop. So let me see here. Okay, and what people are wanting. Okay, so Niam said, where I've been living is emotional, scattered, lost. Yeah. And what people are wanting to have is gratitude, serenity, accomplishment with April. Excellent. Bill said he's been feeling vulnerable and useless. You know, it's hard to help others while physically isolated and productive. And he is yearning for, I'd love to hear what you're yearning for, Bill. And where you would like to be, Niam, is patient. We could all use a little bit of that right now in these close quarters. Patient, thoughtful, and optimistic. Beth said hopeful, productive, and calm. Okay, so now that you've got an idea of, okay, this is what I want to feel, not what I want to do, but what I want to feel. Now we can start brainstorming ways, actual actions, actual projects, actual goals that cultivate those feelings, that feed into those feelings. So I want you to grab your list, and I just want you to write down some ideas about what you were kind of thinking you'd like to work on during this unusual time. And then just sort of weigh it against those three feelings, okay? Just to make sure the choices you're making aren't out of a sort of limited, wounded place, but actually an expansive place, a place of self-honoring, a place of love, of expansiveness. So ideas, you could be taking on a big project that's been in the back of your mind. You could at least, get the groundwork going for it. You could look at if I recommended that maybe you don't go on to biting off a whole new project, but you work on yourself and finding more centeredness and surrender, then maybe it's about adding some practices to your day, okay? Some practices like meditation or yoga or journaling or movement, cathartic movement work. And again, I've got resources about all of that on my website. So, and maybe next Facebook Live, next workshop, we'll work on a few more of those sort of releasing techniques. But we'll see. I'm going to basically take from you guys what it is you'd like to see and work on next week in the workshop. Okay. So you could, your goal could be about cutting out a habit, or cutting down a habit. It could be something that you've been wanting to, again, work on for a long time, but it's just you've never had time. Maybe you just aren't working right now, and for the first time in a long time, you aren't working, and this could be the time to bring out that project that you've always gone, if I only had time. Maybe it's goals that you made for 2020 before hell broke loose that you're going to revisit now and see if those could be adapted. Okay, so hopefully, you went into 2020 with some consciousness about what you'd like to do, and now maybe revisit and see are there aspects of those goals that I can at least sort of work on, and even if you can't execute the entire thing, can you put all of your ducks in a row? I don't think that's a vegan term, sorry. Can you just put can you line things up? I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming ducks in a row came from a bad place. So maybe you are a caregiver or a healthcare professional, and the opposite is going on right now. You do not have time. You do not have bandwidth. You can still set goals. You can still set, an intention for this time, and your intention is probably going to look more like, what am I going to give up? What am I going to give to others to do? How am I going to call in help? How am I going to nourish myself better? How am I going to, find ways to let go of what I'm collecting through the day? That's probably going to be where your goals are going to lie a little bit more. Okay, So I'd love to see in the comments whether there is something coming up for you as far as a goal that really sort of suits these feelings that you connected to, that you realized you are yearning for. So adding into the chat right now, let me just see. June says she wants to feel balanced. Sorry, these are skipping all over the place. Um, Balanced, optimistic, and yeah, doesn't want to be thrown off by family members who lose it. Judy says she's having trouble not having purpose, feeling surreal, like every day's the last. Oh, and lonesome. I'm glad you came today, so that hopefully you're not so lonesome. Kathleen said, also feeling grief over the death of a loved one, anxiety over my world and uncertain future, need to escape. And you're yearning for peace, joy, appreciation, also wanting to feel strong and healthy, back in touch with your creativity. Ooh, so that's juicy stuff that you're gonna be able to sort of work on little bite-sized pieces around that. Okay, so some goals that people are putting in. April said she wants to do gratitude list, meditate and do yoga, and check off to-do lists to attain your desired feelings. Monica said set boundaries on social media time. Hallelujah. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, because we're going to talk about distractions. We're going to talk about focus, and that is one of the things that is getting out of control for people. So keep on adding what is coming up as far as your goal. And she said also set time for having fun. Perfect. Again, these are scary times, and there's some sad times, but we're going to be in it for a long time, guys. Joy, fun, celebration, connection, those feed us. They make us stronger. They make us more expansive. They make us better to deal with disease, and also with any sort of social unease that's coming our way. So, all right. There is, what I want to do now is I want you to just think about what steps you could take over this next week to get this goal happening. I don't want you to bite off a huge thing right now. I just want you to ease into it, okay? Because just that little bit of bite-sized, action creates some motivation, which creates bigger action. So I want you to really think about it and break it down and say, okay, today, what could I do towards this goal or these feelings? What could I do? And write this down, because I'm going to be asking you for this later on, okay? So I really want everybody to have an answer for this. One thing that you're going to do today. And then I want you to just make some notes about what you could do in the week, okay? And if you're a real go-getter, you could sketch out the next month if you wanted to. Create just a little timeline. Don't make it too of a punishing timeline, too much of a tight punishing timeline. Again, we have to acknowledge that these are strange times around us and in our bodies. And so we do need to factor in some space and some ease. Okay, we can't go full barrels ahead like we usually do. Okay, so we've got some motivation now, because these goals, we recognize the feelings that they're attached to. But I want to talk now about focus, because I think that's what a lot of people are dealing with is the lack of focus. So I'm going to talk about things that are very logistical, and I'm going to talk about things that are a little bit more body, mind, spirit. I'm just going to check into the chat here to make sure I haven't missed anything. We had Doug join. Excellent. And Christine. Okay. So Judy said that Zoom with the family is going to be one of her goals. Doing a good job of that. Una's goal is to take her work seriously. Okay, so now, Una, it's time to figure out what's the bite-sized ways to do that today, this week. Let's just start with that. Ashley said, would like to feel more grounded and optimistic and have growth. And she's going to try via meditation, gratitude, and trying some virtual paint nights. Oh, that's so fun. Excellent. And if anybody has been finding some things that have really been working for them virtually, online offerings, please add them in the comments, and share. I'd love to get everybody's resources in on this. So let's talk about ways to work on the focus element. First of all, everybody has a to-do list. Mostly everybody has a to-do list. It might have gone out the window for a little while. I don't necessarily want you to go back to just the to-do list, but what I'm going to suggest is that you have a daily top 3. Okay? I have a to-do list that's very lengthy. And if I just kept on going back to that to-do list every day, and nothing else, I add twice as much as I tick off. Okay, I would feel drained every time I looked at it. But what I actually do is every day, either the night before as I'm knocking off for the day, or in the first thing in the morning, I figure out what the top 3 things are that would move the needle on the things that are most important to me. Okay, and they're going to be different. They could be different every day. And so there's a really big long range project that I've been working on for a while. And so it's really important to me. And often there's one thing on that list on the top 3 that is from that project. And then there's some of the other stuff. So the top 3 isn't about just that sort of busy work. It's about what are the things at the end of the day. If I got these 3 things done, I'd feel pretty darn good. Or at least if I got a portion of them done. Okay, and what I want you to do with those top 3, just for now while you're getting used to them, is the next the next day you're putting your new top 3, look at your other top 3 and just put a percentage of how much of those top 3 you accomplished. Okay, I like partial points. I don't like to be all or nothing, and just to get a sense of, yes, I am moving the needle. The other thing to keep in mind is, during this really noisy time, when our brain is just, it's like, fluffy squirrel, what's going on there, blah, blah, blah. It's so important to have anchors to come back to in your work, okay, in whatever your goal or work is that you've decided. So having that top 3 has saved me over the last couple of weeks. I'm like, I'm about to go down a Facebook rabbit hole, and I'm like, nope, that's not on my top 3. What's my top 3? Okay, get back to that. If I get my top 3 done, I can go down that rabbit hole, but not till then. And so going back to that top 3, it's kind of like your anchor, okay? It's what you go to hang on for dear life. And another thing that really helps if starting that top 3 feels overwhelming, first of all, break it down. If it's feeling too overwhelming, don't make the top 3 for your day so big. But another thing that really helps, a little productivity hack that I love, is just take 30 seconds to go through each of the 3 and actually envision yourself doing them, getting them done. Okay, like just take a second to really feel it, see it, just experience it. It's like a dress rehearsal. And just like you do a dress rehearsal for a theater production, it is going to make your goal happen much better than if you didn't. Okay, it's also like sports teams or athletes. They envision their moves, and that's a really powerful way for them to up their chances of success. Okay, so this is just your little way of going a little bit more high performance. Is just taking 30 seconds, just seeing yourself in the situation, doing it, taking it. And it sounds a little silly, but man, it works. It's really effective for taking away the overwhelm. The other thing I want to talk about is clear time frames, chunks of what you're handling when. So again, in this time where some of you might be regularly quite organized, but probably right now you're less organized or more distracted than usual. So this could go for anybody. But I find deciding at the beginning of the day or at the beginning of the week, whatever you want to do, the chunks of time that you're going to dedicate to what, okay? And actually have a schedule for that. And again, don't make the schedule a 15-hour schedule, and factor in lots of breaks and everything, but have chunks of time where you put blinders on. And that is all that you are concentrating on, okay? Those will be the chunks of time when you turn off your ringer, or you even put your phone in a different place. It's going to be where you close all the tabs except for the one that you're working on. If you're on the computer, you're going to close the door. You're going to say you're unavailable. The average worker in North America gets interrupted every 3 minutes. And that is not a way to build something good. Okay, that is not a way to be able to, really dive into your creativity. So take the distractions away. Okay, so and if it's hard at first, just do hour chunks, okay? And at the end of the hour, if you need to go check your text, do it. At the end of the hour, if you need to get a COVID update, do it. But I'm going to address the COVID elephant in the room right now, and that is media consumption. It's getting out of control around this, folks. Any social media or online parameters that people had before, which were so important before, have gone out the window. And this bombardment of the pandemic news, it spikes our adrenaline and our anxiety so hard. Now, I never want you to be, somebody putting your head in the sand and not having, being informed in this really important time, but get really deliberate about where you're going to get that information and when you're going to take it in, okay? You do not have to be 24/7 having alerts coming up on your phone or checking out what everybody's saying on Facebook at every turn or having CNN all the time. No, 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 no. That's so bad for your system. So I want you to, as part of this planning, to figure out what are the sources that are really you can really count on, that you really trust, okay? You don't need to be looking everywhere. Just find the ones that you trust and figure out what specific times of day you're going to do it, and do it in times where you're feeling like a little bit more grounded, a little bit more centered, okay? Right now, people are going for the information when they're feeling worried, when they're feeling off center, when they're feeling, and that's the worst time to take in new, somewhat scary information. So take in the information, but do it when you're prepared, you're being deliberate about it, and you can go into it feeling a little bit more calm. Okay, you can process it better that way. All right, I think that makes sense. Does that make sense to everybody around has anybody else been suffering from too much media consumption around this? Yeah, okay. So no good comes of this constant bombardment, folks. And even the socializing, the online socializing we're doing, it's wonderful and it's what we need in a lot of ways, but be more deliberate about it, okay? It's just like you wouldn't open up your home to having people drop in at all hours, anytime, whether you're in the shower or whether you're trying to read or have a nap. You consciously invite people over, you're prepared for it, you really enjoy it, are able to savor it because you're, really there and centered for it, okay? Same thing goes with your social media living room. Don't have it open all the time. Okay. Now, knowing that all of this is going on, I want to give you a little extra exercise that I think it's going to be important. So if frenetic energy, being distracted, has been a big problem with you, I want you to try this. I want you to grab a new piece of paper, and I would like for you to just take 2 minutes, and I'd like for you to just write down on this piece of paper everything that's bothering you, okay? From the big things to the little things, the big fears to the irritations, the judgment, the worry about finances, whatever it is. I want you to just take this moment. I know you're like, I think about this all the time. I don't need to write it down. Yes, write it down because we need to get it out of the head and onto the paper. We need to take the teeth out of the tiger right now, okay? So getting your pen to paper and starting to write down everything. Just get it out of you and onto this piece of paper, and write with a little bit of a sense of urgency, okay? The way these thoughts are in your mind, get them onto the piece of paper. And as you do that, I'm going to put on a little bit of music to get you kind of into this space. Okay. Monica says, makes perfect sense. Excellent. Okay. Getting all of this stuff that you've been carrying out of you and onto the piece of paper. Who are you worried about? What are you worried about? What's picking at you? What's irritating you? What are you judging? What are you worried about missing out on? Get it out of your brain and onto this piece of paper. When there is so much shit going on, you need to face it and give it a space. This is the space. Do it. Do not skip over this. Give you 20 more seconds. Get everything you can out of that mind onto that piece of paper. And it doesn't even have to be thoughts. It can also just be feelings in your body. What are you feeling? Are you feeling nauseous? Are you feeling that hypervigilance? Write that down. Write those feelings down. Just get everything out of you and onto that piece of paper. All right, finishing that list up. Okay. So, I want you to look at that piece of paper. Tell me in the comments, is there a lot on that piece of paper? I'm curious how much showed up. Just a couple of words, or is your whole sheet filled? By the way, as you're answering, I'll get to that later. Okay, so you have this piece of paper and you have acknowledged and created space for you to know, what it is that you've been carrying, what it is that's rolling around in you. And probably this is a lot of shit rolling around in you. No wonder you're distracted. No wonder you're dazed. There's so much in you. So when you are trying to start moving out of this place of dazed and distracted, it's important to have a daily practice where you get it out. I call it kind of a mind dump. Get it out of you and onto the piece of paper. So the next piece of this is when it's a particularly full piece of paper and there's a lot of shit that's come out, it's important to just do a release around that. So I want you to get ready to release this paper with great gusto. I want you to rip it up when I say go. I want you to stomp on it if you feel like it. I want you to throw it around. I want you to make it a mess. Let's go! Oh, I love to get it out. I love the loud music and I love to get it out. So hopefully we didn't scare too many people in the household. Or maybe it was good that we did. Shake them up a little bit. Oh, how did that feel? How did that feel just to acknowledge and release some of that stuff you've been carrying? Maybe you didn't realize you were carrying it until you checked in. So let me know in the comments. How did that feel? Oh, Donna Lou said there was Hi, Donna Lou. Good to have you here. There was a lot more stuff on your sheet than you thought there would be. Monica said there are 18 items on her paper. Yes, 11 for Una. Too many thoughts and things that Janice is carrying that I overthought what to write down and I ripped up a blank page. Well, it still feels good to rip it up anyway. Niam said, I needed that. Haha. Yeah, I think we all needed that. And I just scared Beaker. I should give a cat warning when I do this. My cat didn't even move. Karma didn't even move. She's used to it. Okay, So again, this if there's a lot of frenetic energy, and it's very understandable that there is. This is just an exercise you are going to want to you're going to want to do on a regular basis these days. Just to when you're feeling overwhelmed, you know that you need to acknowledge and you need to make space and you need to shake it off in some way. Okay, and I love doing the whole shake off. With the whole body and the music. I did a little bit of that there, but I didn't want to get too insane for you. All right, let me see. Where are we? Okay, let's talk about some more practicalities around distractions of working from home. So, a lot of you are finding yourself now working in close quarters with your loved ones that are challenging some of your edges a bit. So, it's important that everybody that isn't working on something in particular, that doesn't have a more defined kind of deliberate goal for this time, that they know that you do. And so closed doors, for example, can be just as if you are at work, that you are not there, you are not accessible, people can't knock on the door, you can be texted, but nobody, if the door is closed, there should be a rule that there is no interruptions, okay? None until that door is opened again. If you don't have the luxury of doors in your home, another really great thing to do is to either have a little a sign that says, Kathy is in a meeting right now, and when you're available for anybody to talk to, you can turn it around and say, Kathy is now not in a meeting. Or you could put headphones on whenever you're working and you don't want to be disrupted. And again, you have to tell people in your household what these codes are. That when the headphones are on, that means that you're going into those sort of deliberate chunks of time. Speaking of those deliberate chunks of time, one of the pieces that I forgot to mention, when you're planning out sort of the chunks of time in your day of where you're going to do what, a really important thing to keep in mind is to create before you consume. Okay, so to be able to do earlier in your day the stuff that takes the most brain power, the sort of most creativity or the most figuring out, the stuff that's a little harder, it's great to do early, when you're fresh, before you've gotten bombarded by everything, and just something to keep in mind. I've really shifted that a lot for me in the last year. I really do. I used to try to get done all of this, stuff that has to be done, all the little pieces and bits, so that I'd feel free to do it in the afternoon. I never ended up getting to stuff. Those little bits can take up the entire day if you let them. So being able to create some space earlier in your day where you do this big picture work, where you do this creative work, is really powerful. Okay, so we talked about distractions working from home. Side note, how many people are in your PJs right now? And no judgment. I love a good PJ work day. But I'm just going to suggest, just like everything else, that you keep checking in and just, every day kind of go, would this be a day to kind of get dressed? Would this be a day to maybe even put makeup on if that make me feel better? Or is this a day? Yeah, no, I want to be warm and cozy, and I just want to create. I want to be in my little bubble. Again, so if you want to go PJs all the time, every day, I'm all for it. But as long as, again, that is sort of suiting your integrity, suiting your motivation, your freshness, being able to honor the feelings that you're wanting to cultivate. Okay, let's talk about accountability, especially for those of you that are used to working in a workplace environment. It can be tough. It can be tough to work on your own. And so I'm just going to give you a couple of ideas here. One could be having a goal buddy around these goals that you have created for this pandemic time. And just, having a regular check-in with this person. They should be somebody who's also got a goal, so that it can be a two-way street. So what you would do is you would just sort of discuss what your goals are, how you'd like to be supported, maybe decide on how often and how you're going to meet, whether that's going to be a daily text or a weekly or bi-weekly virtual call. It could be anything. but somebody else to just be able to go, okay, how you doing, darling? Are you staying on track? Or you're not staying on track. I understand, but what can we do to make it better? I'm finding these days with a lot of my coachees, we're having to do a lot more of that than usual. We're having to do a lot more accountability, finding ways to keep them set to their intentions. The other thing that I'm hearing people are doing are virtual work sessions. Okay. So basically, if you're having a hard time getting at stuff, get your work goal buddy or somebody else that might be struggling in the same way and just say, you know what, for 2 hours, let's meet on Zoom and we'll both do our writing, or we'll do whatever project we're working on together. You might once in a while say, oh, hey, I figured this out, or might there be a little bit of chat, just like you would in an office. You'd mostly be working side by side and maybe a chat here or there, but mostly it's just in solidarity you're working. So again, if you're having a hard time committing to yourself, maybe committing some virtual work sessions with somebody else will help. The other piece that's going to be really important to keep your focus is breaks. Okay, you have to have some breaks. And these days, those breaks, if you can, should probably be going outside, okay, and feeling the world and feeling the wide open sky and feeling this beautiful big Mother Earth beneath you. And bonus for all of us in the northern hemisphere, spring is on its way. So that gives us just a whole new burst of energy to be able to tune into that. Also stretching, moving, and as Monica said earlier, physical exercise right now more than ever is so important. Okay, it used to be for a lot of people, it's physical exercise was just about not getting fat or staying in shape or whatever, but it's mentally so important right now, because that physical activity, just like we did with the shaking and ripping out, it's our way of releasing all that we collect through the day. So I know on Tuesday I got so much work. I was getting pretty overwhelmed, and for the first half of my day, I was just like, I was in a tailspin. I was busy, but I wasn't really getting a lot done. Nothing was absorbing, and I kept putting my run off because I was so behind. And then finally, I said, "F it," and I went for just a really good run with some music that was really cathartic and everything. And I got home, and for the next 6 hours straight, I just boom. Everything that I've been struggling over, just done. I got so much. I got more done in that time than I'd gotten done in the 3 days before. So don't underestimate the exercise. I also mentioned the daily wellness routine, and how important it is to formalize and help prioritize the activities that nourish you. So I mentioned a few different things. I mentioned some sort of form of mindfulness, whether that's meditation, guided meditation online. You can find ones that I've done on my website, or whether that is yoga, stretching, whether it is journaling, whether it is an appreciation list, whether it is setting intentions, whether it's reading from a book that inspires you, but really figuring out, is there a morning routine that you could do that would just set the stage for living a more conscious, deliberate day. Okay, last piece. And we're just going a little bit over, so hopefully you can stick with us, because this is an important piece. And that is when you start to lose motivation. When you're like, why am I getting out of my pajamas? Or why am I not binging Netflix? It's to connect to the why of this goal, okay? It's for you to really get what's meaningful about this. Many of you here are committed to making the world a better place, so maybe it's about contributing to that. Or maybe it's about strengthening you in some way so that you can take your work to the next level once this is over. So connecting to, if I continue down this road, if I step up in this way, how is this going to make me feel? So I want you to just have an experience of this. So I'm going to take you through a really short visualization. I want you to choose one goal that you've chosen, that you wrote down, one goal that you're like, yeah, this is what I want to focus on this right now. This is one of the things I want to focus on. Okay, so take that goal right now. And I want you to close the eyes. Let's just roll the shoulders back a couple of times once again, just to get into the body, Always good to do this work from the body, not just the mind. And just with each breath out, letting go. Just giving yourself these last few minutes to nourish yourself and your goals. So I want you to think about this goal that you set. And I want you now to see and feel it coming to fruition. What does that look like? See yourself, see what's happening, and feel it. Notice what you create with this goal, how it affects your well-being or fulfillment. Maybe it grows you in some way, in knowledge or skill. Maybe it makes you more connected to others. And how does that ripple out? How does that ripple out to other parts of your life? Or to other parts of the world? And if there are others directly on the receiving